Hi, I'm Nancy Clark.
And I'm Amory Wallace-Phillips.
We're the Hospice and Bereavement Coordinators with Theo in Oxford, and this is Morning Chats with Anne-Marie and Nancy. Cheers.
Cheers, Nancy.
So we are still filming virtually in order to follow the stay-at-home orders and to keep safe. But we wanted to talk to you today about carried grief and triggered grief as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reference Dr. Alan Wolfelt quite a bit throughout our chats today because he has really taken a lead in identifying carried grief and to providing resources and support for people who are experiencing this.
Yeah.
So many people in our culture avoid embracing life losses. This is something we all know. We're a death-denying society. We don't often talk about our hurt and the pain and grief we're carrying through the loss of other people. And we certainly aren't granted a long time to experience grief and bereavement. So many people, as a result of this, really try to go around grief rather than through it. Try to find, a path to avoid pain, avoid hurt, and go around rather than experiencing those deep feelings of grief going through.
Yeah.
But something we also know is that when we don't authentically mourn the death of someone, if we don't allow ourselves to not only experience those feelings of grief, but to outwardly express our feelings and mourn publicly, then we can't live or love well. So Dr. Wolfelt calls this living in the shadows of the ghosts of grief. And basically, when you live in the shadows of the ghosts of grief, you suffer, often unknowingly, from those unacknowledged and unexpressed feelings of loss.
Yeah.
And you may have many ghosts in your past. That is, many unacknowledged losses or deaths. Or you may find that it is just one particular loss, a very important and a very impactful death in your life that has devastated you and stuck with you, even if you didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. What I'm finding, Nancy, too, is many of our individuals who are seeking support, they're, I'm going to say ghosts, for lack of a better term, are coming out because of the pandemic that we're in. It is complicated grief, and it has also triggered a lot of past grief.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you are unwilling or unable to give attention to how loss and grief shape your life, inevitably you will project your symptoms of grief into your body, be that physical illness, mental illness, or struggles with anxiety and depression. You can project it into your relationships with other people or into your worldview as a whole, having a negative, pessimistic, or damaged outlook to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. So Dr. Wolfelt, he uses the term carried grief, and this describes unacknowledged or unmourned grief. So when you experience loss, but you do not mourn the normal and necessary resulting feelings of grief, you carry that grief forward into your future. Any unhealed grief will linger, influencing all aspects of your life, your living, and particularly your loving of people. For many, the resistance to the pain and discomfort that accompanies loss is passed down generationally.
Yeah.
When family rules do not allow for these true feelings, for openly mourning, the capacity to mourn is inhibited, delayed, converted, or avoided completely. And once again, this carries into the lives of people, and it also is generational. Dr. Wolfelt suggests that to inhibit, delay, convert, or avoid grief is to condemn yourself to a living death.
Right. And I think it's important, Anne-Marie, for us to acknowledge that mourning the death of someone doesn't mean getting over the loss of
Absolutely.
someone. It doesn't mean that you have healed yourself, that you are fine to carry on in life
Yeah.
with this person no longer alive. It certainly doesn't mean that at all. It
Absolutely.
just means that you have allowed yourself to face the reality of the death, to feel those feelings of grief, and to process it and do that grief work a little bit each day.
Yeah. And once again, we go back to our previous morning chats. Grief is messy. Grief
Yes.
is ugly. And when we are mourning, we need to feel those feelings, but we need a way to identify and acknowledge those feelings, because if we don't identify all the feelings that are associated with grief, it complicates things, and it also as we're saying right now, it's not healthy.
Right. It's actually in embracing
Yeah.
our grief, our carried grief, that we find relief from life
Right.
problems. So relief from
Absolutely.
anxieties, depressions, addictive behaviors, difficulty with giving and
Mhm.
receiving love.
Yeah.
So our carried pain will keep trying to get our attention until we discover the courage to gently and in small doses open to its presence. So gently opening your heart a
Hmm.
little bit to process this grief,
Yep.
to acknowledge the pain, to name those feelings.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the alternative,
Yeah.
denying or suppressing pain,
Yep.
in the long run is in fact more painful.
Yes, more painful and fortunately very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for more information, please contact Anne Marie and I by phone or email. Visit voinoxford.ca. Or subscribe to our morning chat series on YouTube to learn more about grief and bereavement, healthy coping mechanisms, and other ways to find support.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Take good care.